All right, welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts, the one where you hear the weird sound of Hernan rubbing his hands together.
We're live, Adam.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Gotcha. Well, welcome everybody to episode 239 of Hump Day Hangouts. Today is the 5th of June, 2019, and we have got some good stuff for you today. But real quick, we're going to run down the line and say hello to everybody. So, Chris, how you doing, man?
Excellent, as always. Super good to be here.
That's good. Your audio sounds super good today, man. Do you have a new mic?
No.
All right.
Earpods?
Well, yeah, sounds good. All right, Hernan, how about you? How you doing?
Good, man. I'm just freezing my ass off down here, so I'm drinking a tea. You guys are having the nice part of this time of the year, but other than that, good. Happy to be here. Happy to hang out with you guys a little bit. So good stuff coming up.
Outstanding. Marco, how about yourself, man?
What's up? About 6 weeks ago, I was listening to the Temptations. I wish that it would rain, and it hasn't stopped since.
Is that
every day, man, rain. Yeah, I'm gonna stop listening to that song. Maybe it'll stop raining.
Awesome, Bradley. How you doing?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Excited. We gotta run. I gotta be out for right at 5 today, though. My daughter's she's graduating 8th grade and going into high school next year, and so they're having this big award ceremony this evening and all that. And can't believe she's gonna be fucking high school, man. It's crazy.
You don't sound super excited, Bradley.
Yeah, she grew up too damn fast, and that means I'm getting old is the problem.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm trying to think when we met her. What was that, like 3 or 4 years ago? Or
long time ago.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Anyways, yeah, long time. Time flies. All right. Well, getting back to the Hump Day Hangouts topic, if you're watching us for the first time, that's awesome. You're in the right place. Thanks for watching, whether you're watching us live at semanticmastery.com/HD questions, or if you're checking out the replay on YouTube. This is a place to be. You can ask the questions at, again, semanticmastery.com/HD questions. That's where we've got the form, the little chat box for all the questions. You can ask your questions ahead of time, if you aren't going to be able to make it live, or you just want to make sure it gets answered, because it is first come, first serve. Beyond that, we get asked a lot, where should I start with Semantic Mastery? Well, this is the place to start. We're here every week. We're answering questions. We're watching Hernan choke to death on his drink. But then we tell people, after watching that, go grab the battle plan. All right. And that's what you want to grab. If you want to get better repeatable results, go to battleplan.semanticmastery.com. But if you're past that and you're kind of wanting, either you're ready to start or you really want to grow your digital marketing business, then, joining an experienced community with faster access to real world info and testing with the Semantic Mastery Mastermind is the place for you. And again, you can find out more about that at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. And for those of you who like using done-for-you services and like to speed things up, head over to mgyb.co. And I'm almost done. I do want to say that if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Helps us grow, helps us get our word out there. And if you come across any videos or clips that you like, please share them. If you find something particularly helpful, there's probably someone who might like that as well. And real quick, I wanted to say, because Hernan just kind of glossed over this, and I bet he can actually talk now. Maybe he's recovered from his drinking.
Kind of.
But I think, Hernan, you're going to be doing some Q&A for our mastermind members, kind of a live thing, aren't you?
Correcto. Yeah, I'm gonna be starting. I tried to start last week, but it was a kind of a problem because I wasn't in the country, so I was giving a traffic workshop. So, but this Friday, I'm gonna start doing kind of a series about paid traffic, specifically Facebook ads and Instagram ads, with a focus on local. We can talk about pretty much anything you guys want, lead gen in general, CPA, e-commerce, whatever you guys want. It's going to be exclusive for the mastermind. It's going to be on the Facebook group, so you need to be part of the Facebook group. If you're on the mastermind, you haven't been joining or visiting the Facebook group, that's where the magic happens pretty much. Besides the calls and whatnot, that's where we get a lot of action happening and whatnot. So head over there. I think I'm gonna be doing it. Let me actually confirm you guys the time. So it's gonna be Friday the 7th, and it's gonna be at 11 a.m. Eastern. So it's gonna be there. It's gonna be live. It's gonna be awesome. So it's gonna be. I'm gonna be testing it out as well to see what kind of response we get, and if you guys agree with that, that could become a cycle. So it's just jump in live like once or twice a month, just answering Facebook stuff. That's part of the commitment that we have with the mastermind people, that we want to give them as many tools as possible to grow their business. And Facebook ads is a powerful tool indeed. So
sounds good. Yeah, and that's on top of all the regular training everyone gets in the mastermind as well as the community. So if you're interested, head over to mastermind.semanticmastery.com and join up before Hernan goes live so you can attend that.
Speaking of which, I've got YouTube ads training that I'm going to be doing over the next several weeks in there, because I'm doing several YouTube ads campaigns for Semantic Mastery. I've just been recording several videos over the last couple of days. In fact, we're going to try to grow our YouTube channel subscriber base to above 10,000. So I'm setting up several campaigns using in-stream ads and YouTube for that. And I'm going to be kind of documenting and sharing, the process for that kind of stuff, as well as we're going to start increasing our Hump Day Hangout attendance too. And I want to use YouTube ads for that, because there's an enormous amount of traffic to be had from YouTube if you know how to do it right. And it just takes consistent effort and, trial and error to figure out the best recipe, so to speak, for the ads and the messaging to get that right. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of that. I also started another business that I finally revealed to the mastermind last week. I've been teasing it for a month. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I'm going to be using YouTube ads a lot for that business as well. And it's going to be cool, because it's going to be slightly different from just our standard, local and lead gen stuff that we've been kind of pushing for the last, 6 or 8 months, because it was, there was so much opportunity in that. But we've kind of done all that, and so now we're going to kind of broaden out a little bit and do some. I think it's really good timing that Hernan's going to be doing some Facebook and Instagram paid traffic training, and I'm going to be doing some paid traffic training on YouTube ads and how to get traffic that can be applied for affiliate type businesses or local businesses, or just getting like branding and awareness and all that kind of stuff. Building an email list, building your subscribers, lead generation. It's just going to be kind of all encompassing. So I think it's a really good time to be in the mastermind.
Awesome. All right. Well, if we don't have anything else, or rather, is there anything else, you guys? Are we good to go? 2, 1. All right. We're good to go. Let's hop into it.
All right. Let me grab the screen and we'll get into the questions. Sweet. All right. Where are we? 7 days ago. Okay. So it looks like Tushar is first. He says, embed service at mgyb. How do you recommend using this? Is it for tier 1 links or money sites? Are the embeds on niche relevant sites? Well, the embed network is for embedding pretty much any sort of iframe. Typically, people think of embed services as being used for just videos, but it can be used for maps, Google Maps, Google My Business Maps. You can actually iframe pretty much almost any website unless it has an iframe breaker. So you can use it for any number of things. We use it specifically for videos, GMB or Google My Business Map embeds, as well as RYS, RYS reloaded methods or tactics, I should say. So if you're not familiar with that, it's really powerful to do with your Drive Stack stuff, your files or folders and things like that you can embed, which is great because, if you order a Drive Stack to be built from mgyb, and then you can use parts of that as part with the embed service. And same thing goes with maps embeds or video embeds. So it can be used for pretty much any sort of thing. And embeds are actually, I don't know how much Marco would want to get into this here, but embeds are like a do follow link, even on no follow sites. So they're very, very powerful and they work very well. Marco, what do you want to say about it?
That's just it. It's like getting a link, but it doesn't count against your link profile.
Yeah. Is it raining real hard there again?
Yeah, it's raining real hard and there's thunder coming through and all kinds of good stuff.
I can hear it.
But anyway, that's just the way it is. Embeds are really simple. It's a display of your page on somebody else's. It's a tunnel, and all the credit goes back to the source, and that's just what it is. It's a way to get a link that doesn't get counted as a link. And if it's not counted as a link, it cannot incur penalties.
Yeah, and they're really powerful, and the embed networks are primarily Web 2.0 embed networks that our link building manager has been building for years now. So they are themed networks. In other words, he's been building and seasoning these links, or excuse me, these Web 2.0 embed networks for, I'd say, at least 3 years, maybe even 4 years now. So a lot, I mean, first of all, it's a massive network. And second of all, a lot of these they're aged and themed well because he's been building and building and building. I mean, he's got hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million properties built specifically for this kind of stuff. So again, they are themed. A lot of them are aged. So it is a very powerful thing. We've seen quite a lot of movement using the embed service for like GMB map embeds. You know, I don't do a whole lot of video SEO stuff, or at least I haven't been recently, but I'm going to be over the next several months because I'm doing a lot of YouTube stuff right now. But I'm doing paid traffic as well. So I'll be testing that some more. I know it works well for videos, but I have been doing a shit ton of map stuff, Google Maps and GMB stuff. And I've been using that embed service for that, as well as like we teach in any one of our paid training courses about ad ID pages. Again, can't go into that here in a free setting, but in our paid courses, we talk about ad ID pages, and they're very, very powerful to embed. And some of the biggest movements that I've seen are using just traditional link building, like, again, the same service that we have in MGYB, and an embed service, or a combination of both, where you embed a property and then hit the embedded the properties where it's embedded with additional links. And that tends to really move the needle. And what I like about that service is that it's easy. It's easy for us, right? Because all we have to do is place an order. You know, and in our link building manager and his team take care of all of that. So it's easy on me. I just have to submit details. And then, you know, a few weeks later, I get the report, and I can usually see, depending on the obviously level of competition, but you can usually see the results. It will move the needle just from the link building and the embed services combined. So it's a very powerful service, and it's simple to fulfill. Next is, he says, how to build citations for multiple cities' website. Do you offer GMB verification for your local clients? I ask this because I'm not sure if this is risky and we should limit this to our own properties. Should we do this for a client with a service business that can serve multiple cities? Yeah, you can. I mean, that's something I upsold to a lot of my clients, was adding additional locations. And I'm using air quotes because a lot of my clients didn't actually go get physical, you know, additional office spaces or shops, because most of them are contractors. But we did add additional maps listings for a lot of my clients. However, I always recommend taking precautions if you're going to do that for a business. Like if you're doing it for lead gen stuff, you understand the risks, right? So that, you know, use them at your own risk. But when you're dealing with clients, you have to be more careful, right? You do not want to do anything that could essentially pass a penalty to their main brand or their main domain, their main location. So whenever I've upsold maps expansion or location expansion to existing clients, then what I would do is either just use subdomains from their root domain for each location, or I would avoid using their domains altogether and just use GMB assets, which would be the GMB website, GMB post, the map itself, that kind of stuff. And then obviously it would be branded still for the main company. And they would all have their own unique tracking numbers that would would all forward to the, you know, main phone number for that company. Typically they would either have an in-house receptionist that would answer the phone, or I would set up an answering service like I've been doing for my lead gen stuff forever. And so all the locations would go to the same destination phone number, but all of the individual locations would have a unique physical address, a unique phone number, and a unique web address. If it was going to be used with their branded domain, we would always use subdomains, not inner pages. So not like location pages. It would always be subdomains. And typically I wouldn't even build websites on them, on the subdomains. I would just do a redirect from the subdomain to the GMB website, if that makes sense. But in some cases I recommended not even, and it's just, again, for those clients that were worried about it, I said, you know, we don't even need to use your domain. We can just use the GMB website as the main website for each location. The idea is to get the leads to go to the main, you know, the leads back to your client, the business. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, as long as you can brand it with the same logo and the same like header image. So the GMB website image, that kind of stuff, the, you know, the header image on that, all of that, that's all that you really need to brand it. And the rest of it can still be left within just GMB, which is what I recommend. So it really depends on the level of risk that your clients are willing to take. I always recommend trying to reduce or eliminate risk as much as possible. So the only thing that would stay the same would be their name. But we've actually had a discussion recently in the mastermind. I'm not going to get too much into it, but appending an additional term to the actual business name to make it more unique. So for example, if you had 4 locations in one city, you could name it like north, south, east, and west. So company name north, company name east, company name south, company name west. And that actually helps to add a little bit of diversity to the business name too, to prevent any potential pigeon issues. But like I said, it would still be, I still wouldn't recommend actually connecting any of those assets directly to the primary business's location or website, because you want to reduce any risk. If that makes sense. Okay. As far as building citations, I don't build citations to GMB assets unless they are real bona fide businesses that I have access, or addresses, excuse me, that I have access to collect mail from. And I've talked about that for many, many months now. If you're buying GMB verified GMB locations, that means it's a spammed address, or it's an address that you do not have access to collect mail from or at. Does that make sense? So the problem with building citations is the moment that you start building citations, because most citation directories or business directories require a physical street address in order to build the listing. And the moment that you start adding your business or publishing a listing on a business directory with the street address, okay, you're going to get on that street address is going to be put onto a marketing mailing list for physical mail via United States Postal Service. And what happens is that location, that address that you use, will start to receive business related mail that's addressed to the company that you have listed as the GMB. And so if it's going to an actual building or to somebody's house, God forbid, I recommend that nobody ever uses somebody's house address unless that's their own house or they got permission to do it. But if it's going to a building or a house and somebody starts getting physical mail with solicitation offers from marketing companies and Vistaprint and list providers like Info USA and like all these different, I know because I get a ton of them myself. You start getting all these marketing mails, these solicitation mails for offers for the business, then it's likely that somebody's going to report that business as not being actually at that location. So I highly recommend that you don't do that. You can get results without citations. If you have a physical address that you can accept mail at, then I absolutely recommend using citations because it is still very powerful and effective. But you can still get results without using citations. And if you're using GMBs that you don't have access to the actual physical address, then I recommend that you do not. Okay. Do the other things. Dustin says, hey guys, I need to change the telephone number on my GMB. What's the best way to keep the GMB rankings? Only delete the old number and add the new number in my RYS stack, or 2, adding the new number and keeping also the old number in the RYS stack? Well, actually what I would do, well, it depends. Because if you're going to change the phone number, if any properties that you have access to edit, I would want to change to add the new phone number in. But think about if you do have citations, we were just talking about those, but if you do have citations out there, that's a real pain in the ass to go change the phone number. In fact, I wouldn't recommend doing that yourself at all. I would hire a service for that. There's a great service for that, but from Loganix. If you go to semanticmastery.com/LOGANIX, then that's the best service I know of for citation cleanup work. It's more expensive than some of the other services, but they're really, really, really thorough. I've had really good results with them. So if you have citations, it's a real bitch because you're going to want to update the phone number on those. However, if you're not going to lose the old number entirely, right, then you can keep that phone number in the GMB as a secondary phone number. So what you can do is actually go in and add, or essentially click to add another phone number into the GMB dashboard, and then cut and paste the existing phone number into the second position and put the new phone number in the first position, and then click save. That way Google understands that that old phone number is still associated with that profile. However, if that old phone number is not going to receive calls anymore, then it being listed on a bunch of other business directories, in the event that people do try to contact the business on those from those business directory listings, it's going to be an invalid number. For the SEO purposes, it would still be okay because you left the old number in the GMB dashboard as a secondary number. It won't be published, but Google will recognize that it's associated with that business. But like I said, if you have existing NAP or citations published on the web, then I would recommend that you try to update those if possible. And again, if it's something you have access to, like drive stacks, yeah, absolutely update the number. But when it comes to citations and things like that, it's a real bitch. It takes time and consistent effort. And so I recommend you hire a service for that. Does anybody want to comment on that?
No.
Okay. Next, Rob says, I just recently purchased a franchise product that provides SEO services. It's not from you guys. Well, then we're skipping this question. No, I'm kidding. He says it's not from you guys. The company gave some exhausted training on how to sell the services, but seems like everything was leaning towards cold calling and door knocking in order to get clients. I somehow came across you guys on the internet and purchased the battle plan. I have a website that the franchise gave to me for lead gen, but was not familiar with how to set it up for lead gen. Does the battle plan product help with that? And is there something else I could use with your products to get the ball rolling a little faster? Sorry for the long text. Okay. Well, as far as lead gen, using for lead gen for like getting clients, really all you need is a landing page that, describes your services and has a real big, strong call to action to contact you, right? Typically it's going to be, your phone number real big, perhaps your email address if you want to publish that. I don't like to do that, or a contact form, right? Want some more information, contact us or contact me, depending on how you're branding your business. Contact me here, and then, have a little contact form. But so that's just standard, right? That's just a standard lead gen type web page. So you can set your own, like, for example, my own agency website is just a one-page site. That's all it is. It just says what I do, and there's a contact form at the bottom. So if and there's contact buttons, in several locations. If they click it, it just scrolls down to the bottom right where the form is. That's it. That's all I do. Because that's for inbound marketing, right? So typically you're going to be driving people to a landing page if you've got inbound marketing set up. So that's like running ads to drive traffic to your landing page, or it could be organic stuff. But what I found is, as a marketing consultant myself, right, running my own agency, I found that most of the time that I've been able to secure clients is when I'm going out and doing outbound marketing, where I'm contacting them, right? I know you can get inbound leads, but personally for my own business, I don't get a lot of inbound leads. Most of the inbound leads I do get is from referrals from existing clients, but I don't get a whole lot of cold leads coming from Google, or, I don't do a lot of pay-per-click marketing to get clients, but from just straight SEO, I rank well for SEO Virginia and things like that, but I don't typically get a lot of leads from that. What I've gotten most of my leads from was me doing the outreach. And you're right. I hate cold calling. I hate door knocking. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. So we developed a product called Video Lead Gen System, which I've been using since 2012 to build my own agency. And I recently streamlined it because we built a whole bunch of lead gen assets and needed to find a way to get service providers or to monetize our lead gen assets. And so I needed a way to streamline the video lead gen or video email prospecting method that I had always been using, because it was time consuming, very effective, but time consuming. So we created video lead gen system and then updated it recently and just relaunched it. So if you're interested in that, I'm sure, Adam, you probably already dropped the link to it, but I would recommend that you try that because that's a great way to get people to get noticed, or to get a conversation or a dialogue started with potential prospects. Because think about this. If you just recently are starting to try to build your own agency, I'm going to tell you now that it is a saturated market out there when dealing with local businesses or business owners, period. It doesn't have to be local businesses, but business owners get hammered relentlessly by marketing and advertising companies. All the time they're getting solicitations via cold emails, via cold calls, by people knocking on their doors, seriously, like walking in and pitching them, just like what your franchise company is telling you to do. That's like the normal now. And so you really need to differentiate yourself. You need to be able to make yourself stand above the competitors or get noticed through all that noise. And so that's why I said the video lead gen system is a great way to separate yourself from the rest of the pack and just becoming another solicitor, right? And so again, guys, I'm not discouraging anybody from getting into, providing client services or becoming an agency and all that. But I will tell you that it's a lot harder now than it was 5 years ago to get clients' attention or prospects' attention. And that's because of, it's just an absolute feeding frenzy out there. The businesses get hammered nonstop with solicitation calls and emails and offers all the time. And so you have to really be able to stand out from that crowd. So the video lead gen system is a great way to do that. It does require some work. It's not a magic bullet, and it requires consistent follow-up. But we talk about all of that in the training. And if you implement that, you'll see that you will start to get much, much higher response rates than you would from typical cold calls or, walking in the door and calling on it. Think about this, guys. And I've done door-to-door sales in the past. Think about, as a business owner, like I work from home and I can't stand it when somebody knocks on my door, like to try to, whether it's a Jehovah's Witness or a census person, somebody wanting to ask questions for the Census Bureau or anything like that. Somebody comes and beats on my door and I'm in the middle of working or recording a video or something like that. It's an interruption. It pisses me off. I also don't answer the phone unless I know who the phone call is from. And if I'm expecting the call. As a business owner myself, I don't want to be interrupted. So think about when you cold call somebody or you go walk in their door and, knock on their door to say and try to sell them something, what you're doing is interrupting them. And that pisses a lot of people off. So I don't recommend that at all. I recommend you get more creative on your pitch and your approach and make it easy for them and convenient for them to hear your message. And that's part of the reason why the video lead gen system works so well. Because you can send them a personalized video that explains why you reached out to them, and they can watch it when it's convenient to them. And when you set up notifications properly, you'll know exactly when they're watching your video. So you can follow up with them immediately, right? So that was a really good question. But like I said, when it comes down to the battle plan, no battle plan is going to tell you how to get results from getting your website seen and get traffic to them and get better results for them for SEO and all that kind of stuff. But lead gen, a standard lead gen template is very simple. You can just go to Google and look up lead gen, landing page templates and things like that and get an idea of what your basic elements are that you should have. And then the rest of it is really about honing your message, right? Crafting your message and finding an approach that's going to get people's attention and get them to want to follow back up with you. Okay. Turn a cold lead into a warm lead. And that's what the video lead gen system is all about.
In our free Facebook group, Adam did a post on the 31st of May, and he talked to us about this, how he uses the video lead gen system with Loom to follow up. So he says it makes it more personal, right? They're used to video, so he sends them a video, and he says his conversions are way higher. Why don't you talk about that, Adam?
Yeah, definitely. It's such an easy system to use, and it's funny because videos used to be tough to do. And I remember I copied Bradley's method from the first version of video lead gen system and using images and this, that, and the other thing. But now these tools like Loom have made this so much easier where I can put the video, it plays natively in Gmail. And even if it didn't, it looks like an image is there. And then not only that, because I went ahead, that's just the free version. I went ahead and paid for it when they, brought out their pro version or whatever. And I can put an overlay link that goes anywhere I want on there, which is awesome. So the conversions on this stuff is super high, like Bradley says, and anyone who's gone through the course and put it to use knows how well this works. I mean, it's crazy getting 30-40+% conversion rates in a method that most people get 1% or less. And then the follow-up is super important. At POFU Live in 2018 in DC, did a little exercise. I had people stand up And I said, assuming everybody here is involved in some sort of business where they talk with customers, I said, you guys all in this room, everybody does some sort of follow-up, right? And, everybody nodded their heads. Yep. Okay. So I said, everybody stand up, and I'm going to say a number starting with 1 and working my way up, and say, how many, automated follow-up, either calls or emails do you have in your business right now? So started at 1, and, everybody was pretty much still standing up. Said 2, few people sat down, got to 3, more people sitting down. By 4, there was very few people standing, and I may have this wrong, but I think by the time I got to 6, there was 1 person in the entire room standing up. I didn't even have 6, which I've since fixed. But your rate of response from people goes up hugely as you keep going. And we all know this, that, oh, we're supposed to maintain this contact and we're supposed to follow up with people. But if you don't have this process or this method to do it, you get busy, you got other things you want to do. It's not fun, but this is what gets results. So, highly encourage anyone who doesn't have a great method for doing this, that isn't already giving you fantastic results, to just go grab Video Lead Gen System, put it to work. And this is one of the fastest courses to return your money, and then probably 10 or 100-fold over time.
Yeah. And last thing I want to say about that is also, if you're going to be pitching or prospecting for your new business, I recommend that you really do niche down to a particular industry, because you'll get really, really good at being able to speak directly to that type of business owner, as opposed to being all over the place, where if you're going to be marketing to pretty much just to businesses in general, you have to really understand what's important to every business industry, and speak to those owners with their own vocabulary. It's very difficult, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of experience to get good at being a general marketer. It's much easier and much more scalable to become a specialist, or like a boutique marketing professional. In other words, where you really niche down and become an industry specific professional, because then you really only need to come up with, learn the vocabulary, the pain points, the hot buttons, know what the customers for that particular business are looking for, what their needs are, all of that. It makes it so much easier to scale. And then you can just expand your business by targeting more locations, right? Expand your service area essentially, but you're still targeting the same business owner, the same business type. I would recommend that highly. All right, so next, Gordon's up. He says, hey guys, as usual, your Hump Day help is greatly appreciated. You're welcome, Gordon. He says, I'm not sure how Google search algorithm works in one particular instance when it comes to local search. If you take a standard lead gen site that is branded with specific business NAP, actual or made up, as well as having links to citations in the major directories and a GMB listing, and compare it to an authority site that is targeted to a specific business niche in location, but without any of the items just mentioned for the lead gen site, they're both equally easy to rank, or would Google's search algorithm favor one type of site over the other? And if so, in what way? I'm not sure what you're talking about, unless you mean like a local lead gen site versus like a Yelp page or something, if that's what you mean. Or a big authority type site like, well, I mean, Yelp would be one of those, but like Home Advisor would be another one, or Angie's List, and I'm talking contractor type stuff, but like in the real estate market, it would be like, Long and Foster or Century 21 or, Remax and things like that, versus a local lead gen site, right? So my point is, it really depends. When it comes to maps listings, maps rankings, I found that a local lead gen site, you can typically rank better than those type of sites, because a lot of those sites won't have a maps listing, like a physical location in a particular area. But when it comes to organic rankings, yeah, it's tough. If it's a search with local intent, especially if there are directories, if you go do a search in Google right now, guys, you'll see that I think Google's broken again. And I've talked about this in a recent Hump Day Hangout, because there are, Google is nothing but an index of links, right? Search results are indexed results. The search engine results pages, or the SERPs, is nothing but a list of indexed results, right? So page 1 is the top 10 results as indexed by Google, according to Google's algorithm. But if you take a search and do something like Plumber Fairfax VA for Virginia, right? So Plumber Fairfax VA, you do that search and you'll see that there's the maps listings, which is great. And you might see a couple of local businesses ranked in your organic listings, but you're primarily going to see business directories that are indexed in the organic section, that when clicked upon go to another index page. We talked about this recently, right? And it's very difficult to compete with that kind of stuff. So let's just take a look real quick. If I say plumber, Fairfax, VA, right? We're going to scroll down. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. And you can see they're blue because it's still cookied from the last time I was here. But you're going to see ads. All right, let's make sure that we spell it right. Okay, so you're going to see ads, and then we're going to see the maps rankings, which I find are easier to do when competing in this type of a space, right? Because take a look. The top 3, there's one actual company website, right? Out of the top 3. So number 1 and number 3 are index pages on other. So essentially when you click through to this, guys, all it does is take you to another damn index, which is what Google's page is, right? It's an index. And then you take a look at this and you click through and it's nothing but another index of plumbers on Yelp and that are in Fairfax. And the same thing goes for Angie's List, right? Then you'll see Michael and Sons, okay, number 4. So that's another company. But then Home Advisor, that's another index page. So out of the top 5, 3 out of the top 5 are actually index pages. And so again, even though they don't have a physical location there, which is why they're not in maps, you can see that those are authoritative sites, and their authority is why they rank so well organically, even if they're not super optimized, right? Specifically, like if you take a look at the Yelp page, it doesn't have a ton of content here about plumbing and the plumbing services, or the services that plumbers offer and all that kind of stuff. All it is a freaking index page, right? That's all it is. And so it's not content rich at all, yet it's ranking very, very well. Number 1, in fact. Does that make sense? So when it comes to actual, which one is easier and which one's harder, that's why I've always recommended for local lead gen, focus on maps, because it's gotten, over the years, it's gotten harder and harder to rank in organics, the organic section, excuse me, because of the business directories. And Google's gone through phases where sometimes it will list index page. Again, I think it's stupid. Think about that. You go from one index to another index. That's dumb. I don't think that's useful to anybody, right? I mean, that's just my opinion, but I really don't think that's useful to anybody. Why would you want to go from one index to another index when you click through? Now you've added an additional step to find your solution, right? So again, I think that's dumb, but over the years, we've seen that happen with Google, where they get rid of the directory listings, the indexed directory listings. It's okay to have a Yelp page for a specific company ranked in the top 10. That's fine, because that means that company had probably done it really well at filling out their profile, optimizing it well. They probably got a lot of engagement, that kind of stuff. That would be fine. But to go to another index page, unfortunately, that's kind of where we're back to now. And I don't know that it's going to change, or when it will change. It may. Like I said, it's gone in cycles over the years. So when it comes to what I think is easier to do, I think you're much better off focusing on maps for local lead gen stuff than trying to do trying to fight or compete with the authority sites in the organic rankings. And I know some people might have differing opinions, but fighting with Yelp and their authority, over here, it's very, very difficult. Same thing with Angie's List, Home Advisor. It's very, very difficult. Anybody want to comment on that?
No, I'm going to agree with that, but I would also say that in SERPs now, what really matters is the entity, and how well or how much you've taken care of the entity, how much power you're pushing to the entity, so that you're presented to Google as trusted and authoritative also in the niche. If you don't do that correctly, then you have no hope of trying to rank in the SERPs, right? Especially against these powerhouses. But you can, as you've shown, that there is a company that's ranking in there. And the way that you do that is power. You should, first of all, we went through the entity webinar, right? We did that in Syndication Academy, where we showed the steps that you need to take to solidify the entity, or what I call the end game, so that when you push power into the entity, Google is going to take all of that power as trust and authority for your entity, so that you can go against these powerhouses and get in there. But it does take a lot of power. It does take a lot of creativity, and your schema has to be right. There's many things that come into play when you're trying to do this. And as you said, it's easier to go after the maps.
Yeah, but I totally agree with what you're saying, though. I mean, my point is to get results and get, I start with maps. There's no question. But always, definitely, you want to validate, solidify that entity. You want to try to build brand authority for that particular entity, because it's not that you can't rank in the organic section. It's just going to take you longer and more effort. And so my point is, start with maps. Once you start getting, leads coming in for your lead gen business or for your client, then you can focus on all the other stuff that you're going to need to do to get ranked and to try to attempt to rank in the organic section as well, which all the stuff that Marco just mentioned is absolutely correct. So do both, but start, in my opinion, with the map stuff. And that's what, that's the way I've run my business for years. Okay, so next one he says is, would it make a positive difference if you listed 1 or 2 random local business NAPs from that niche on the authority site to give Google a local business name, address, and phone number? Thanks again. Would it make a positive difference if you listed 1 or 2 random local business NAPs from that niche on the authority site? I'm not sure I understand that one. If you're trying to rank organically, would it make maybe the way I'm interpreting this is that you're saying if you're trying to rank organically by including NAPs from other businesses, perhaps it would make it more like an authority site. I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, it depends on what you're doing, but unless you're building a directory site, I wouldn't do that. Right. I mean, I wouldn't want to push authority over to anybody else's site, especially competitors. So I'm not sure I understand that part of the question. I'm going to move on. Don says, thanks for Hump Day Hangouts. 2 questions for Bradley. In your complex silo YouTube video, you use the following structure. Okay, when adding the second county, it seems that the post name should be slightly different. Yes, it should be. Those videos were recorded many years ago, so I'd have to, I don't even really remember what I said in those videos, but yes, the post name should be unique for all the way down to that level. However, let me just clarify something right now. There's no need to use the physical silo structure anymore, which is what you're looking at in that URL structure there, which is where, it's the category / post name permalink structure in WordPress. You don't need to do that anymore. You didn't need to do it back then, but I preferred it back then because I liked seeing the hierarchy of the silo structure within the URL. But we've tested over and over again, and I haven't done any hard tests in the last few years, but it's not necessary to have that as a physical silo. You can do what's called a virtual silo, which is just using the post name permalink structure. So it makes your URLs much cleaner, much shorter, right? It's still, you still want to build your categories correctly. And your subcategories, if you're doing a complex silo structure, you're going to have categories and subcategories, right? And pages and child pages, and in posts, right? Which is your 3rd level deep. But yes, when it comes to the permalink or the slug for the post, you want to have that is unique for each post. You can't duplicate leak repair, for example, as a post slug on 2 different posts, because it will, but WordPress by default will put a -2 for the second one, right? And so on the post level, I've always recommended that you would, on the post level or even on a subcategory level, but my point is you're going to need to have unique slugs, right? And so that's why it's not necessary to have the physical silo, because let's say if you were going to have Fairfax County and Prince William County, and then you were going to go directly to, like, I don't know, plumbing. Let's just say you're going to try to use plumbing as a subcategory for both. They're 2 different parent categories. Then you're going to have plumbing and plumbing -2, right? Because the second time you try to create that subcategory, it's going to have the same slug. It's not going to work. So my point is, I stopped using the physical silo structure, which is where you see everything in the permalink, and started using virtual silo, because I don't care if there's a plumbing -2 as a subcategory, as long as it's stacked within the way that you build it out in the silo structure. The bots will crawl it correctly to where it won't bleed over from one plumbing, like plumbing -2 to plumbing, the regular plumbing, if that makes sense. They will all be separate containers, basically, but you don't have to look at that ugly URL, is my point. Does that make sense? So I've switched to just doing virtual silo structure, which again is just using the post name permalink, because that way you can hide all of that stuff that's hard or impossible to reconcile within WordPress. However, that said, there is another way to silo, and obviously I'm not going to get into that here because it would take the rest of the time. I'd have to get out my Snagit and start drawing silo diagrams and all that. And anybody that's been in the mastermind knows what an abomination that is. But you can silo also using categories and tags, guys. You can use tags as a way to add especially for complex silos where you've got perhaps multiple locations, but you've got the same service that's going to be provided in each location, right? So instead of having location silos via categories and then service silos via categories, which is difficult to do, you can actually use tags to create silos too, right? So you can have like location silos or service or product or service categories, and then use tags as a way to create location silos. And there's a way to do all of that, which is a little bit cleaner. It still takes some planning out, guys. A complex silo structure is just what the name says it is. It's complex. And so I always recommend, if you're going to do that, that you map it out first, because it will take some thought to be able to do it correctly. Marco, were you going to say something, or somebody?
No.
Okay. I heard a popping mic pop. Okay, so, but yeah, as far as when it goes down to the post level, yeah, I always recommended that the posts be more like conversational type titles, and the permalink structure can reflect more like what the title of the post is, right? But if you're just using the permalinks, the post name permalink, which is just a simple, a virtual silo, then it's not going to matter, because your URLs are going to be root.com, rootdomain.com/postname. Even all the way down to the post level, which is deep into the silo, right? That it's just going to be post name. And at your earlier pages, higher up in the silo, at subcategory level, it'll be, rootdomain.com/subcategory, or at the category level, rootdomain.com/category, right? So it's always just going to be whatever that page that you're landing on is going to be, as right past the first the first level past the domain itself. And so that's a much cleaner way to build a silo, in my opinion, because then, it doesn't matter, because even if your permalinks have the -2s and things like that, which are ugly, and I always had a hard time reconciling that with the physical silo structure. It was very difficult. But over the years, I learned that's absolutely not necessary. You can do it with a virtual silo, so you can hide all that ugly URL shit that happens when trying to do that with a complex silo. It doesn't matter. The bots still crawl it the way that you build it, right? So regardless of how ugly the URL is, if you're hiding all that shit, it won't matter. Does that make sense? Okay, question 2, do you typically include the links to the county silo index pages in the site-wide header, navigation, footer nav, link on the homepage, content, other? No, and we talked about this in Mastermind. I can't get into this very deep here either, because once again, we don't have the time, number one. Number two, this is something that this is the kind of stuff we cover in the Mastermind. But no, essentially with a silo structure, you want, from the navigation, you want to be able to link to your top level category pages, right? Which are pages, also categories. And then on the category, the top level silo pages, you can link to subcategories if you have them. Then your subcategory pages, you don't want to really link to anything from there, except for perhaps back up to the root domain, like the home page. And then all of your supporting articles will be stacked or placed underneath each subcategory, and you'd want to daisy chain those together, or link from the subcategory back up to the home page or to the top level category, but not the subcategory. You don't want to create what Marco calls a reciprocal link, even on the same domain. And that's about as far as I can get into that right here. Okay. That's changed recently too, by the way. So again, those are old videos. That the principles are still remain valid, but I have absolutely changed my strategy slightly on how I build those type of silo structures out now. And maybe it's time for an update on that. Gabriel's up. He says, hey guys, thanks again for all the great content. +1 here. Missing G+. Yeah, I'm currently working on building a GMB asset for a solar panel installation services and solar panel installation course. Should I create 2 different GMB assets, or should I use one BMG asset to rank for both keywords? Best solar panel installation. Solar panel. Oh, I see what you're saying. So one is a services and one is a course. That's a good question. I mean, if it's a local course where only people that you're going to be marketing the course to local people, then like for people to come to a school or a location to learn how to install solar panels, then yeah, I guess you could use it. I would recommend doing it for both. But if you're if the course is, if you're trying to market that, well, you can always still have a GMB. But yeah, I would probably if it's for the same company and everything, I would just keep it all under one entity, one asset. That's my thoughts, but that's just because you can actually accrue more authority that way than trying to separate them. Marco, what do you say?
Yeah, I wouldn't separate them either. You're gonna have them on the same website. I don't see why you would need two different GMBs. They're totally irrelevant. You know, so there's relevance there. There's everything that you need, and then pushing those two. I mean, in the course, and I don't want to get into it too much. We show a way where you can do both just through posts, right? And it's still in the same GMB, but you know, you post about the course and you post about the service, and you can keep them separate.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And again, I try to reduce assets if possible when it comes to stuff like that. Try to keep them all housed on one entity, essentially one web entity, right? Which would be a website that you could add, like we were just talking about silos, for example, right? Instead of having two separate assets, it's more work to maintain two separate assets, and it's going to take longer to build the authority to each individual asset than it would be to have the cumulative effect of having both of them under one asset. So.
And if he's using the GMB auto poster or the briefcase, then he can get the RSS feed out and actually go into his T1 and use both posts, right? Both types of posts, and power up his T1 that way, and create the relevance for both throughout his tier 1 assets. And of course, you have to do RYS reloaded. You have to do the drive stack, and you can also stack it in there, right? Two stacks, targeting each of the what would be top level categories.
Yeah. So the next question was from Steve. He says, "Hey guys, thanks for your time. If I register a domain and when I go to do the citations, see that it already has citations from the previous owner, what is the quickest way to keep the domain authority and build new citations without confusing Google?" Okay, so when you say citations, it leads me to believe that you bought a domain that was being used for a local business, right? Because local businesses are the ones that typically get citations. Citations being published in business directories, right? So name, address, phone number, plus website URL. And so as far as keeping domain authority, I don't care about domain authority. So I'm not, honestly, I'm not going to recommend how to keep the domain authority because I just don't care about that metric. I stopped caring about that metric years ago. It doesn't make any fucking difference. I swear to you, if you know how to build relevancy, domain authority doesn't mean shit. All right, unless you have incredibly high domain authority numbers, in which case then it does have an effect. But for anything below 80, it's not going to make a difference whether you have domain authority or not if you know how to build relevancy. So that's irrelevant, right? But as far as you're talking about citations, if you just mean links, there's not much you can do. But if you're talking about site, because they're already built to the site, you could disavow them. I know there's going to be conflicting opinions on that. But, I would also check to see if they're toxic or spammy links, that kind of stuff. But if you're talking about citations where that domain was being used by a different business and there's published citations on the web, name, address, phone number, and web address that are linking to that, and now you're going to use it for a new business with a new name, new address, new phone number, new brand, then I would recommend that you would hire a citation cleanup service. Again, I talked about that earlier, like Loganix, or Loganix. I don't know whether I'm saying it right or not, but semanticmastery.com/LOGANIX. That will get you to, like I said, it's a bit expensive, but it's hands down the best service I've used for cleaning up inconsistent NAP issues, right? So they'll go out and contact all the directories where they find that now incorrect citation and name, address, and phone number, and they'll request that it be updated. They'll submit the new details, and they'll do that for, I think, a total of 4 rounds. So they'll do it like every 2 weeks for a total of 8 weeks or something like that, to where, like, because sometimes you have to contact those directories multiple times to get them to actually do it. So that's what they do. It's expensive, but it works. And it works, about 70% of the citations that are found that are to be incorrect will be updated. And that I found that to be really, really high compared to a lot of the other services out there that say they can do it, that are pretty much lackluster results. So again, if you're talking about that, when you're saying citations, if you're using that term correctly and it's listed, that domain is listed with other name, address, and phone number from another business, and now you're going to use it for a new business with a new brand, new name, new phone number, new address, all of that, then you are going to need to really clean that up out there, because otherwise you're going to create ambiguity, and it's going to dilute your efforts of building new citations. It's going to make it hard to get results. It's always more important to clean up bad data than it is to build new data, which just dilutes bad data. Does that make sense? Start with that. Start with the cleanup. John says, one question, is it a good idea to make the other pages on the site the same style as the home page? I'm trying to rank the homepage city page for a city, but I am also trying to rank other pages for other cities. Now, do you think it's a good idea to just copy my site's homepage style, not the content, just the style? And if I copy content, just rewrite, or is that a good idea? Yeah, I mean, that's fine. As far as like the layout of the page, I don't think that makes much of a difference. I could be wrong. But in my opinion, it's more about having the content unique and optimized for the specific cities that you're trying to rank. Rewrites are fine. I've done that a lot, especially for lead gen stuff, where I'll go out and like buy an article or buy 5 articles, and I'll have each article rewritten 3 times, right? So now I've got 15 articles, and it's a lot cheaper to have an article rewritten than to have a new article written, right? So that's what I would do, is go buy authority content, pay a lot of money for an 800 or 1,000 word article, and then I would send that to an article rewriting service and have them rewrite it, 3, 4, 5 times. And now I've got multiple versions of that one article. By the way, I always would put in tokens into the article, like for the location name, just put it in brackets, put in, set in brackets, location or city or something like that, as opposed to actually putting a city name in there. And that makes it easy to just use find and replace to be able to swap out location names once, when you have it all rewritten with those tokens as opposed to city names. And then you have multiple versions of the article. Each version you can use the find and replace function to replace with a new city name. Does that make sense? It's much easier to do that. So yeah, as far as the layout, that shouldn't make any difference. It's more about the content and what it's optimized for. Okay. MGYB Webby's coming up. Yep. Monday, June 10th, 3 p.m. Can you embed a GMB post? Marco says you can. I haven't tried it, but Marco says you can.
I have, and you still can.
Okay, cool. Got his shirt today. Look at that. That's cool. We got to wrap it up in about 3 minutes. Looks like we're about done anyways. So last question says, a real business with a physical location, GMB was ranked in 3-pack for multiple keywords, but is now outside of top 10. Only changes were we started GMB posts, PressAdvantage PRs, and sent MoneyRobot links to and embed to ad ID page and GSite, but never directly to MoneySite. It may be in Google Dance, so we have stopped MoneyRobot links in embeds. We will continue to make GMB posts and press releases. Would appreciate your input and suggestions to try and recover 3-pack rankings. Yeah, that I don't know without having more detail on it. It could just be a dance, but I doubt it. That typically doesn't happen for what you're talking about. Like if it was in the top 3 and now it's outside of the top 10, it's got it. Something had to have been triggered. Let's see, in embed to ad ID page and GSite, but never directly to MoneySite. Yeah, I don't. It also depends on how you set up. We had a long discussion going on in the mastermind just recently about how the ad ID page is connected to a MoneySite if you're using a self-hosted website for the MoneySite, as opposed to just GMB assets. Guys, remember, if you're just using GMB assets, you can get away with absolute murder, right? If you're using a self-hosted website as the primary website, though, you have to be more careful, because you can't just spam the shit out of your assets that are going to be all linked and pointed back to a self-hosted website, right? Because the rules are different. So it depends on how you have your ad ID page set up. Is the canonical setup to your homepage? If so, and you're spamming that, which is what MoneyRobot is, then you're essentially passing spam back to your MoneySite. Right? So there's other ways to do that. Break that chain to where it's not, the spam isn't being pointed directly to your MoneySite. Run it through a Google site instead, right? So you can canonicalize your ad ID page to your GSite that's part of your Drive stack, and let your MoneySite be linked from within your Drive stack, right? So that all your spam links to your ad ID page and your embeds and all that other stuff that you're using total spam for, which is fine if you've got the structure, if you got it set up correctly. But if you've got it canonicalized to your homepage, where do you think that all that credit from the spam is being passed to? Right? So you think about that. So you really got to know what you're doing when you're going to use spam. Spam is perfectly effective, but you got to know how and when to use it properly. Right. So again, I can't, without knowing more specifics of your project, I don't know how you've got all this chain set up. But my guess is you probably have somewhere your spam links are actually being passed directly to your MoneySite somehow, some way, which could be through a canonical from the ad ID page. Could be that simple, but it could be more than that too. Are you embedding your MoneySite into your ad ID page and then spamming the shit out of it? Don't do that, right? Use your Google properties, which is what we teach. So again, there's without more detail on this specifically, which by the way, if you were in the mastermind, we could take a look at it and analyze it and help you figure out the problem and fix it, right? That's what we do, but can't do that here on a Hump Day Hangout. Anyways, looks like we're done. That was perfect timing. Everybody, thank you for being here. No mastermind webinar this week, but we will see you guys next week. Thanks guys for being around.
All right, man.
Bye, everybody.
Later.